Om Shri Ganeshaya Namo Namah. Greetings to everyone world over, all our brothers and sisters across the globe. Wherever you are, it's a green morning, green afternoon, and green evening. Because people are joining us from the different countries, in the different time zones, in the different health and wellness conditions, and at the same time, different economic conditions post-pandemic. Because the coronavirus has shaken up the whole system everywhere. India doing extremely well before pandemic in medical tourism, dental tourism, wellness tourism, couple of other things we take into consideration. We will talk about that in detail, but today's focus is on caregivers. That is global wellness and caregivers, because our efforts are you should be mentally happy, you should be physically happy, you should be spiritually happy, you should be environmentally happy, and at the same time, you should be economically happy. And that's the way we are going ahead. You all are aware of that every Sunday, we bring the non-resident Indian for our entire ecosystem. The chamber is dealing with the services sector. G20 is happening in a big way, and lots of promotions and lots of development, lots of celebrations, lots of deliberations, and lots of congratulations are coming all together. Today, we are bringing a very important topic of the humanity in our series, and there we work on. Let's move ahead, and we would be joined in a little while, all the way from the United States, Dr. Priya Visweshwarn. She would be joining us. Now, ladies and gentlemen, today is a World Autism Awareness Day as well, 2nd of April, 2023. Now, these children, these little children, they are saying, I'm different and socially aloof. Please accept and love me the way I am. One amongst us has introduced you to the world of Pokemon. If you remember Pokemon, if all of us, we remember Pokemon, I'm sure the bell will ring somewhere and you will recall small kids playing Pokemon and watching that. Right from the Japan, there's a gentleman, Satoshi Tajiri from Japan, born in 1965. That gentleman also suffered a kind of a problem. And as he was moving up in the age, along with the others, we will take on that story some other day. But today I just wish to share over here is, let's pay our respects, because all these children, they need lots of love, lots of care, and at the same time, taking them into the fold. International Chamber for Service Industry, ICSI, you have got different vertical, you have got different chambers, you have got different organization, confederations in India. Our chamber takes care of as far as the service industry is concerned, and there are 54 verticals of services. Of course, tourism is there, hospitality is there, airlines is there, health is there, wellness is there, education is there, skill is there, transportation is there. You're traveling by road, rail, and air, sea, whatever you're taking, that all is services. At the same time, your media entertainment industry to keep you happy, your art, your craft, your dance, your radio, your television, your theater, your music, your films, your animation, your digital, and your technology, your IT and ITS, where we are having the maximum services exports from India. ICSI, the chamber, is a link between 32 million Indian diaspora. Those have gone to different countries and they're contributing a lot their own way. And our chamber has built up world over. During the pandemic, either we should cry or we should adopt. First of all, doctors, nurses, paramedical people, great warriors. At the same time, educationists, people in the education system, teachers, counselors, coach, mentors, principal, trainers, and technical people, they all have done wonders. They are also great warriors. At the same time, ladies and gentlemen, we started the journey on 25th of March, the day lockdown was declared. Before that, we had been doing a couple of other programs, but we focused on education, educators, skills, youth, and technology. And we have taken the complete canvas of the services sector. So Vasudhaiv, Kutumbakam, hearty welcome. Pleasure to have all of you. Now, caregiving in an aging world. Our today's distinguished speaker will take on all the technical terms, the statistics, and everything. I'm just introducing the subject to you. COVID-19, the pandemic that exposed the existing weaknesses across the world globally in the health sector. What exactly are the challenges and how the world population is aging and what kind of a care they need? The supply of the caregivers is not keeping pace with the increasing demand. Our speaker of the evening, morning, afternoon, she's going to talk to all of us. So I'm not touching much of details into that. In Europe, what kind of a caregiver duties at different places in the different countries, what exactly is needed, what's happening in Japan, what's happening in South Korea, we will talk about. Now, the care and the support systems must be person-centered. Earlier we used to talk sympathy. Now you require empathy. Earlier you used to call IQ. Now there is EQ, that is empathy quotient. You got to take into consideration because the care has to come from heart. The care has to come from within. Your body, mind, soul has to take care of the person whomsoever you are associated with. A lot of programs are available world over. We are taking all the European countries, we are taking Canada, we are taking Australia, we are taking US, we are taking Latin America, and all the places we are taking. And finally, including Japan and South Korea and Singapore, we are developing a very special kind of a program for you. And that's coming from overseas with our non-resident Indians and experts. Those are from the trade, those are from the subject. They will be talking about, so some of the outlines we have listed over here. Now, to have the curtain raiser, we are going to have soon a complimentary, a kind of a session for you. There's a beautiful Tagore Theatre in Chandigarh. So soon we all will meet over there and there'll be global interaction. And that will be the Tri-City. How do we prepare the caregivers? The Panchkula, Chandigarh, Mohali, and of course, other places we will take into consideration. Length and breadth across the globe, we are taking into consideration. We all will meet soon, and you will have the world experts, Dora, on caregivers. Whatever your mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Let's move together. Let's come together. Let's prepare the global caregivers, which is the need of the hour world over. We have completed 1,884 webinars starting right from the 25th of March 2020. We used to do 7 webinars per day during the pandemic, thick of the pandemic. If the education policy can come after 34 years in India on 29th of July 2020, why can't we have our contribution, humble contribution, whatever we can do? This is your YouTube channel, ICSI India. You can subscribe, like, share, comment, press the bell icon, see it to yourself, and all the programs of entire pandemic journey is available for you, focused on education, educators, youth, technology, and of course, the challenges which we got into various services sector, because tourism was the first to be hit and will be the last to open. Every day, we meet at 8 p.m. in the evening. Tomorrow, we will be talking with you, medical tourism destination India. Don't forget, join us tomorrow as well. With these words, ladies and gentlemen, join me in extending a very warm welcome to our keynote speaker and our guest of the morning, afternoon, and evening, because it's very early morning there in America, and she is joining us all the way from United States, Dr. Priya Visweshwarn, ma'am, and we are moving with Global Wellness Caregivers Journey. Hearty welcome, ma'am. Vanakkam.
Thank you so much, sir. Vanakkam and namaskarams to you. I really appreciate the very kind and generous introduction and the wonderful opportunity to be of service to Mother India, my Mother India, and your Mother India, and the mother of the entire planet and the world, in my humble opinion. Jai Bharat Mata Ki, Jai Hind, and Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Father Pujayami, I would like to start, sir. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. I'm very, very grateful to you and to beautiful Chitraji as well, and a beautiful and brilliant Chitraji. So if I'm going to share my screen, I just want to start a little bit with this wellness caregiver as a profession. Wellness caregiving as a profession. I'll share with you a very interesting story. Gulshanji and I were talking a few days ago about what name we can give the people that are in this profession. And I had suggested a name like well care lass and well care lad for, yeah, because they are young and they are, you know, I wanted them to know that this is a hot and up and coming profession, and it's not one of those staid old-fashioned professions where you know, you are eternally in the service of somebody that may not be able to directly help you or some such thing like that. So I wanted to give a nice peppy new name, and we ran this by some others, and then he suggested, Dr. Gulshanji, Major Dr. Gulshanji suggested wellness caregiver. And it was preferred, this name was much preferred by those people. They much preferred the wellness caregiver name to the well care lass and well care lad, and they gave a bunch of reasons for this. So there's a bit of an amusing story there. So this is a wonderful name, wellness caregivers, and we're going to talk a little bit about what a beautiful profession and important profession this is, and why it is going to suddenly be in huge demand. Huge demand means job security. Job security means you'll always have a job. And that is very important, that when you're starting off in life, you want to enter a field where, you know, the field is not shrinking, right? You want to be in a field that is growing, that there are new technologies coming in, and there are new treatments available, or new technologies, or new trainings, or growth mentally, emotionally for yourself as somebody that not only wants a job, but also wants job satisfaction and the growth that a career can bring to you in this profession. So all of those possibilities are there. So we'll start with just this. And now the agenda, we're going to talk a little bit in the introduction. You're going to see some really mind-boggling data. We'll talk about the countries that require and need wellness caregivers. We'll talk about the diseases that wellness caregivers will help treat. We will talk about how immigrants fare in this profession. So as an introduction, I'd like to share with you, again, I have to see how to show this just as a slide rather than as a, just one second, let's see, slideshow from current slide, here we go. So the total number of full-time caregivers needed in these countries, these following countries, is estimated to be 133 million people in a very short period of time. So we're looking at 30 years, but believe me, 30 years is nothing if you're just starting out your life, right? So you're going to see a huge demand, and I believe this is an underestimate. I think the number is actually more like double of this number. Okay, so for example, according to a 2021 report by the World Health Organization, these are the 30 countries. They will need at least 1 million full-time caregivers by 2050. Full-time caregiving as a profession. This will be a profession. There will be a certification. The people who choose this as a career and as a profession early on, their training period will be much shorter, maybe like 3 months. But we expect that in a year or two, that may even increase to 6 months. And then it will only increase and become more formal as a profession, right? So that's how professions grow, right? So you'll see these are the countries: Japan, China, India, our very own mother India, Germany, Italy, Spain, France, United Kingdom, the country, my country of adoption, United States, Brazil, Mexico, Russia, Canada, Australia, Poland, the Ukraine, Netherlands, South Korea, Argentina, Thailand, Indonesia, Turkey, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Nigeria, and South Africa. So these countries, 30 countries, will need at least 1 million full-time caregivers by 2050. And the total number of full-time caregivers will be 133 million. Imagine if you're a student and you're doing caregiving part-time and you want to study because you want to get a degree or you want to, get a job, a final full-time job in some other profession, and you're only able to work 1/3 of the time. So it's 40 hours, you're only able to work, I don't know, 13 hours or 15 hours a week, let us say, right? Then this number immediately becomes 500 million jobs, 500 million part-time jobs, or 133 million full-time jobs, right? But look at this number. The need for caregivers is expected to grow rapidly in the coming years as the population ages. In 2020, there was an estimated 1.2 billion people aged 60 and older worldwide. 1.2 billion is almost 1/5 of the world's population, right? That's 20% of the world's population. This number is expected to double by 2050. So is it going down anytime soon? No. So for 2.5 billion people, do you think that only 133 million full-time caregivers will be needed? So this is the point. We're going to also address these numbers as we go through the presentation, right? The growth of the elderly population will put a strain on healthcare systems and social services around the world. And without you, as wellness caregivers, we're not going to be able to bridge that gap, right? Between what the healthcare system can offer, what the social service can offer, what the family can offer, what the country and government can offer, and what the needs of these older people are, right? Without the wellness caregivers, that gap between what they need and what the whole constellation and all the systems together can offer, there is a big gap. It's a yawning, ever widening gap. And without people taking up the wellness caregivers profession, we cannot bridge that yawning, ever widening gap. See, that is the importance of this. One aspect of the importance of this, okay? Okay. The top 30 countries with aging population are these, okay? That's a little different than the population that needs the full-time caregivers. So we still have Japan, Italy there, and then now we have Germany, we have Portugal, Greece, Spain, Finland, Austria, Sweden, France, United States, Czech Republic, Belgium, Switzerland, United Kingdom, Netherlands, Ireland, Hungary, Australia, Poland, Israel, Canada, South Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, Hong Kong, Chile, Costa Rica, Uruguay, and Argentina. So these countries, the population is actually the aging population, which is above 60 population, is 20%, or either it's more than 20%, like in Japan and Italy and all, it's 28% of the population, almost 30%. But in some of these, it will be maybe like 17, 18, 19, close to 20%. So on average, you can say that 20% of the population of these top countries, on average, is above the age of 60. And it's actually above the age of 65. So Japan has 28%, Italy is 23%. Okay, so we are talking about now the number of people who are above the age of 65, right? Germany, Portugal, and Greece also have very high percentages of elderly people, with over 22% of their populations being 65 or older. So why are the populations aging world over, right? The first thing is medical care and healthcare has improved so much that people are not dying early. The second thing is birth rates have plummeted. And there are many possible reasons for this. People have advanced all kinds of theories, including feminism as a reason. But feminism is not the real reason why birth rates have plummeted, in my humble opinion. Education, in my humble opinion, and in growing financial independence and equality among the genders, but also understanding, that there is a purpose to childbearing. And you bear a child if there is a purpose for bearing a child. It's not just an accident when a person has unprotected intercourse, right? So it is, people are choosing to have children. They're choosing when to have them. They're choosing how many. And they're taking control and charge of their reproductive health, as we call it, right? So this is why you could say all those people who did not, take care of that, or whatever that is, a lot of those people, those generations are still here, and we are duty bound and obligated and with honor and pleasure, happy to take care of them. So these are the reasons why the populations are aging world over, right? So what are the implications of an aging population globally, right? Population aging has a number of implications for countries. One of them is that there'll be a smaller active workforce, okay? And what that means is a lot of people work, 20 years, 30 years, and so on. Some people work 7, 10 years if they're working in professions that are very intense, very demanding, night call, night shifts, 24 hours a day, those kinds of things. Those people usually work 7, 8, maybe up to 10 years before they get health problems or they burn out, something like that. But in every profession, there are people who put in the 30 years, 40 years, and so on. Armed forces, for example, people now work 40 years in an armed forces job. And as people retire, there will be fewer people to work and contribute to the economy. And because of the very low birth rates, you can see that there are not enough younger people to replace the people who are retiring and leaving the workforce. So the workforce pool is shrinking, right? And what this could lead to is a shortage of workers in sectors like healthcare and construction, where you need a lot of hands-on, training and work. And, you literally have to do a ton of work manually, physically with your hands while you're at the job. That population is typically under 40. I mean, I've worked in so many hospitals here in Houston, which is the largest medical center in the world. It's called the Texas Medical Center. They see millions of patients a year. And there are over 40 hospitals in a 5-mile radius. And the average age of the nurse, for example, the nurses who work here are, the average age is around 32. So they're in their 20s to about 40s. You have a few nurses in their 50s and 60s, very few, or almost none in their 70s. So you see people in their 50s and 60s, and those are also very few. So in a field like healthcare, where the amount of manual work and walking and running all over the place, carrying heavy things, moving patients and so on, or construction, which is just this, it's the same kind of work, running everywhere, moving things, carrying heavy things, but it's a different area. So, in these fields, the workforce will be very, very small because of the aging population. What that means is you can't deliver healthcare effectively if somebody is getting admitted to the hospital all the time. Or your building construction has to be done some other way, like 3D printing, if you don't have enough of a workforce to build the houses that people need, right? Making sense? Okay. Another implication of the population aging is there will be an increase in the demand for healthcare and social services. So as people age, they're more likely to get sick, more likely to fall. And I have some very interesting thing to share with you, and I'd like to share it at the end of this presentation. And I'm going to just say right now, they're more likely to get sick and more likely to fall right now. But that thing is changing very, 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 very rapidly. I can tell you that. As people age, they're more likely to need healthcare and social services like nursing homes and home care, right? If they fall, they're going to need 6-8 weeks of home care and maybe 12 to 16 weeks of physical therapy and strengthening of those muscles. And that is one-on-one. There isn't a way to make the physical therapist have 5 patients who have broken, fractured hips and have had hip replacements all in the same house. And the physical therapist teach 5 people at the same time. That doesn't work, right? A physical therapist can't do it on Zoom. They have to be physically there examining the patient, right? They have to assess what is the strength of the muscles. Is it coming back? What exercises can I give this particular person with these problems? One hip fracture patient who's had hip replacement may have back problems. One person may be tall and have some other problems. Another person may have weak hip flexors and they may have been sedentary for 30 years and they may need a different set of exercises. So depending on what the individual patient is that is physically assessed in person, they have to come up with at least they have to come up with the treatment plan, and the reassessments have to be in person, right? So what this will lead to is, this will lead to a strain on government budgets. As people age, there's going to be more physical therapists needed, more people needed to go out to the house to provide home healthcare and healthcare at home. And so more government budget on healthcare means higher taxes for everybody, right? That's the natural, where else is that money going to come from? It's going to come from you. Now, population aging can also lead to social and political changes. As the population ages, there may be a shift in values and priorities. For For example, there may be more support for policies that help the elderly, such as pensions and healthcare. And there may be a decline in support for policies that promote economic growth, such as tax cuts. Do you understand how this can impact all of us? Can it affect all of our lives, right? So if you have a more greater focus on pensions, then they're going to invest conservatively. They're going to put it in debt, government debt, bonds. They're not going to invest in stocks and other things that can go like that. And then anything that invests in economic growth. So if they get a business, if you have the government and they're looking at a vendor proposal for building a nursing home versus a vendor proposal for building a bridge that has another 5 years of life left in it, which one are they going to fund? The nursing home, right? They're not going to fund the one that promotes the economic growth, and they're not going to give tax cuts because they cannot afford to. And this tax cut thing, you're going to see all over the Western Hemisphere, taxes are going up crazily because of the aging populations, right? So these are some huge things, and these are huge, tectonic shift in the financial universes related to the aging of the population. So, and then if we talk about what are the diseases that are common in the elderly, right? There's pretty much a certain standard basket of diseases. And I have actually studied this quite a bit extensively a little earlier on when I was working on my the research part and formulating my research hypothesis. And what I can tell you is older people have more cardiovascular diseases, they have more cancer, they have chronic respiratory diseases like asthma, like chronic obstructive lung disease or pulmonary disease due to smoking or other causes like genetic. They also have more incidence of diabetes. And then these are caused or made worse by smoking, obesity, and lack of exercise. So some common diseases in the elderly, cardiovascular diseases like heart disease, coronary artery disease, or blockage in the blood vessels supplying the heart, cerebrovascular disease. Some of them may have even had strokes that they recovered from or did not recover fully from. And that is due to blockages in the carotid arteries supplying the brain. Then cancer of various kinds here in the Western Hemisphere, for example, breast, prostate, lung, right? These are some very common cancers in the West. Chronic respiratory diseases we talked briefly about, and type 2 diabetes, right? This pretty much all over the world, as people age, they get chronic medical illness. And these are the chronic medical illnesses for most people across the world. There's a list of about 15 or 20 of them that account for a large number of the elderly diseases. So it could be things like, other than diabetes, cancer, chronic respiratory disease, and cardiovascular disease, could be high blood pressure. It could be even mood disorders like depression, or osteoarthritis, or joint inflammation, long-standing from injury or degeneration. You could have, we talked about high blood pressure, right? So kidney disease is another one. And so on. They could have had a stroke. They could have heart atrial fibrillation. Atrial fibrillation is another common diagnosis in the elderly. So that's a heart rhythm problem. So these are some common diseases in the elderly, right? We already talked about this. So breast, lung, prostate, and colorectal cancer. Colon is the other one, right? So, and much more common over the age of 50, particularly prostate cancer. So you have COPD, asthma, and pneumonia. These are all diseases that can be present in the elderly, and diabetes itself can cause heart disease, stroke, blindness, kidney failure, and nerve damage, right? Yes, we missed this Alzheimer's disease, right? Osteoarthritis, osteoporosis, Alzheimer's disease, and other causes of dementia, right? This causes memory loss and cognitive problems. It also causes mood disorders, right? And arthritis is a condition that causes inflammation and pain in the joints. Osteoporosis causes the bones to become weak and brittle. And how many of these elders have these diseases? That varies from country to country. For example, cardiovascular diseases are more common in high-income countries for whatever reason, while cancer is more common in low and middle-income countries. And the prevalence of these diseases is also affected by lifestyle factors such as smoking, obesity, and lack of exercise. Now, I don't actually agree with this statement. I mean, you can see a lot of cancer in the West as well. And there are countries like Japan and even in India, I would say overall, the incidence of cancer is a lot less per percentage-wise of the population than compared to the Western Hemisphere. So older people are at risk for other health problems right now. I keep saying right now because at the end of this presentation, I'm going to give you a very interesting little piece of information, right? So hang in there and keep asking your questions. If you have any questions, if you have any clarifications that you would like, and you'd like to know something, please don't hesitate to ask, right?
People are enjoying. People are enjoying. We are getting positive comments. Please go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Yes, thank you so much. Older people are at risk for falls, fractures, and infections. And these problems can lead to hospitalization, disability, and even death. For example, hip fracture is associated with death. Did you know that? It is associated with a much increased risk of dying within 6 months of the hip fracture. And that's because when they have a hip fracture, then mobility is almost completely cut off. They're more likely to form blood clots and die from blood clots. So it's a very strange sort of a thing. But yes, you know, why do they fall or have fractures or have infections? There are certain common reasons for all this, right? So that is actually my area of medical specialization. So I will talk to you about that in just a minute. So yeah, so we went over this. There are a number of things that can be used to prevent or manage the diseases that afflict the elderly. Remember, we said that even right now, 1.2 billion people in the world are over the age of 60, and this number is expected to double in 30 years' time by 2050. So over the age of 60, if it's going to double by the year of 2050, right, that is 30 years from now, who's going to be 60 in 30 years from now? The 30-year-olds, right? People who are 30 and older will be 60 and older in 2050, right? So we're going to have 2.4 billion people. So we already have 1.2 billion people over the age of 60. In 30 years from now, all that 1.2 billion people, if they're still all alive, they will be above the age of 90. But who's going to become over the age of 60? The 1.2 billion people who are already over the age of 60, are they all going to be alive 30 years from now? Probably 100 million of them will be alive. 200 million of them will be alive 30 years from now, correct? We can't expect all 1.2 billion as yet to be alive in 30 years from now. Let us say 200 million, or let us say just, you know, very optimistically, 500 million of them are alive 30 years from now. Now we have another 2 billion people who are 30 and above, who are now between 30 and 60, who will become above 60, that we can help with these things. This is what we are calling wellness caregiving, right? Those people are active and doing great, wonderful things right now, right? But if they don't maintain a healthy weight, if they don't eat a healthy diet, if they don't get regular exercise, if they don't stop smoking, if they don't limit their alcohol intake, if they don't get regular checkups, if they don't take their medicines as prescribed, if they don't manage their stress, if they don't participate in social activities, what do you get? You get a 60-plus-year-old with disability, with disease, with accelerated aging, with a need for a caregiver. So we have the opportunity to make a huge impact in the 2+ billion people who are going to age to 60 and above in 30 years' time, who are right now in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, by helping them with these things. This can also, or this is even more important, because imagine 2 billion people from now, and the taxes are already at 30 to 50%. See, this is where we can make a huge impact. That's why we talked about coaching, right? We talked for several weeks about coaching, but wellness caregiving is more than coaching, right? Caregiving means actually taking care of somebody like they are your family member, and their failing is not a possibility for you because they're so important to you. You need them to live, you need them to be healthy, you need them to not do any of these things so that they don't become one of those sick people needing elder caregiving at home. So I just wanted to point out that wellness caregiving is a very, very important and interesting field. And this part, the preventive part, has not even been taken into account. The 133 million that we talked about, full-time caregiving jobs, that is for the people with all those other diseases, the cardiovascular disease, the cancer, the this, that, and that. What about if a young person in their 40s already is drinking a lot and has high blood pressure? Are they going to be sick after the age of 60? Absolutely. How are we going to not only prevent them from getting other diseases, but also cut down on these habits that will lead them to have diseases because they did not cut these habits out, like alcohol intake or not controlling their blood pressure well? That is wellness caregiving, my friends. There is a huge possible societal impact with this, right? What are their needs? Now we're back to those people, the 1.2 billion people who are already with multiple chronic illnesses, accelerated aging, maybe some cognitive decline, we're not sure, maybe not. But they may need help with activities of daily living, such as bathing, dressing, and eating. It may include help with instrumental activities of daily living, such as cooking, cleaning, and managing medications. Definitely, they need emotional support because their families may have abandoned them. They need companionship, emotional support, and reassurance. We may need to help them cope with stress, grief, and loss, right? We might need to help them connect with their family and friends and to help them participate in social activities and help them access community resources and services. And there are some beautiful things in America, right? And that I can tell you is one of them, right? If you live in a good neighborhood usually has a civic association, like a city. It's called City Hall. Somebody will run for election. They will get some budget from the government locally. And they will say, okay, we're going to have an older care, recreational center activity or elder recreational center. They'll have chess, yoga at very low prices. So a lot of people over the age of 65 who are retired will go there. And I'm sure there are things like that in India too. I know my own uncle was a part of that in Bengaluru. But we need more of them, right? We need more of them all over the country, right? So we need access to community resources and services. Financial care includes helping the elderly to manage their finances, pay their bills, and make informed financial decisions. Here, there's a lot of ethics training that we can add to what is already a high level of responsibility and love and care in our people, right? And the ethics training is not because we suspect anybody, but the ethics training is to give a foundation of understanding of what is proper and what is not proper. Even if they are making the request, sign yourself, you did so well today, give me such a nice bath today, I want to give you another $100. Here, sign the check for me and take it. No, I'm not doing that because this is my job. I do my job. I get paid for my job. And no matter how much you love and care for me, one time in a year, I will take as a gift under $100, this amount at Christmas time. Now, whatever that does, or at Diwali time in India, what I'm saying is what that does is that is what is a profession, right? You're protecting the public health and you're protecting society. You're protecting the vulnerable. You're protecting the sick, the aged, right? The ones who are liable and likely to be taken advantage of or abused. You're protecting them and you're safeguarding them. And by doing that good and beautiful thing, you're ensuring that the society is prosperous and everybody does well. And there is always a cosmic payback for choosing to do the right thing. There is always a cosmic payback, and we call it karma phala. And it is always there. When you choose to do little right things, there'll be a huge, then you're acting in the direction of how the superhuman, the supreme wants us to act. And suddenly you'll get like a giant windfall from that. It may not be from the person you're giving care to. It may be from society. It will be from society. It'll be from heaven. It's just going to come in a way that you may not even recognize that this was related to my making those daily, visits with that person. Just the most beautiful time that they could have with another human being. Right? Isn't that a beautiful thing? I think it's a beautiful thing. I really applaud you for even considering this as a career, because you have to have a giant heart to be able to be a caregiver for somebody in need. And giant hearts that give are rewarded in a giant, colossal way by the divine. right? That is something you should know. Even if it's not clear to you now, in 10 years into your career, you will see how it is rewarded, right? I don't want to say all the possible ways, but I want you to be surprised when you see those rewards, right? Okay. Now, spiritual care includes providing spiritual support such as prayer and meditation and helping them connect with their religious community, whatever it might be. So it's a real profession. Because it is a personal service, it has to be done in a professional way. Because there's a possibility for individual, families or societal or national harm, it has to be given a professional title. Wellness caregiver, they have to have a certification, they have to have ethics training, just like any other profession that puts public health on the spotlight on public health, like nursing, like being a doctor, like being a lawyer, right? These are professions. So they'll have certain structured, things where you have to learn how to communicate in an ethical, honest, and transparent but kind way. The certain words can be used, certain words are best not used. How do you convey, certain messages? You may want to tell them that they've just developed a bed sore for whatever reason, and they shouldn't be sitting, they should be standing or with help or lying on this other side or whatever, you want to tell them. There are ways of communicating all these things in a way that helps the person in a positive and encouraging and uplifting way and empowering way. And that is how we want to structure the course and how we train people that provide wellness caregiving, right? We want you to know the best ways to express, no matter what the information or news you're giving them is. What is the best way, the most uplifting, positive, upbeat way that you can share this, right? And there you are actually taking the form of God in their lives, right? You may not know it, but that is actually the truth. So what are their needs and who can provide them, right? These needs vary from person to person, depending on their individual circumstances. You may have a 6-month assignment with somebody, you may have a 2-year assignment with somebody else. Their needs may be totally different, right? And like I can give you an example, one person may be in a nursing home, not able to do much, and you may have to do everything for them. And then another person, maybe they are choosing to downsize and they're living in a smaller home and they're choosing to live in a smaller, closer knit community rather than a regular one. And they can do all their activities. It's just that if they get sick or if they need some help with cooking or something on some day or another, or with their finances, they need a little bit of help. Without revealing names, I can tell you that somebody very dear to me, they are connected in a very big way to the vice president of this country. They're a very dear person to me. They're a mentor to me. And this person, they've downsized. They lived in a big, nice, lovely house with, it was a mansion. It was really good. And they've done their work. They've put in their 50 years of service to the corporations. And now they have downsized and they live in a much smaller home, which is 1/5 of the size of the big home, same 2 people. And their needs are much less. They've gotten rid of all their stuff. And yes, could they use a caregiver? Absolutely, right? They would prefer maybe a family caregiver, but their 2 children are doing so well, they're at the top of their professions, right? So sometimes family caregivers are not available, but in America, people are paid if they're family caregivers. So if they're a child taking care of their mother or father that's elderly, or they're a parent taking care of their grandchild, right? Grandparent taking care of the grandchild, the country pays or the state pays in some instances for family members to take care of their relatives because it's cheaper for the state to do that. Not just cheaper, they also can be assured of the quality of care and that the person who's the ward will not be harmed, right? And so they may provide physical, emotional, social, financial, or spiritual care. Then you have professional caregivers like yourselves, students like yourselves, for whom this is a profession. It's not just a job. It is you are here as a professional caregiver. You have a certain set of duties, a certain set of responsibilities, a certain set of rights. You have a right to take your lunch break. You have a right to drink water, use the bathroom, whatever you need to do. You have a right to call for help if you need help. Those kinds of things, right? So they may be nurses, aides, or other healthcare professionals, and they're paid caregivers who follow a certain set of ethics and who put in their heart and soul into their work, like yourselves, right? And then you have volunteer caregivers who are friends, neighbors, or members of the community who will do it just for free because they love this person, they grew up with them, they want to take care of them, and so on. And the best way to provide caregiving is to use a combination of these. So, for example, the family I was speaking about earlier, who's connected to the vice president, their sons periodically visit them, their children, and then if there was an opportunity for a professional caregiver, I would suggest one of you to do that. And then volunteer caregiver would be somebody like me who's their student. They've been a mentor to me. So I would definitely show up to take care of them. I would love to. It would be my honor and privilege. So a combination of this is best to ensure that the elderly person receives the care they need from the people who love and care about them, right? Ultimately, we all want to be loved, appreciated, and cared for, right? That's all we want as human beings. That doesn't matter what race, religion, country, nationality, ethnicity, language, food, or whatever. All that is irrelevant. We all want the same thing, right? We want love, we want appreciation, and we want to be cared for. So that is the same thing with older people, only they can't ask for it and expect it. So we should make it safe for them to be able to ask for it and to be able to expect it and receive it. That is such a beautiful profession. It's such a calling. It's a gift from God to be able to channel God's energy in that way to take care of God's own children, right? So it's a very high calling to be able to enter this profession, right? And I so applaud you for doing this because it really is a phenomenal service of grace. So how are caregivers presently found? By word of mouth, right? Who are already known and trusted by people in a neighborhood or community. Somebody might know, like today in America, if a person wants a nanny or a babysitter or somebody who's a child caregiver or an au pair, like a foreigner who comes from Germany or France to take care of their child, or Indonesia or India, then they ask people who are trusted and known to them, do you know, one woman will say, you know what, I've had my au pair for 2 years. She's really good. She has another 2 years of studies in America. If you have young children, I can send her over to you. And the other woman will take it, right? So take the person as their employee, right? So you can ask friends, family, neighbors if they know good caregivers. So right now, this is the system for how caregivers are found in the West. There are online resources, number of websites that list caregivers. You can search by location, experience, and other criteria. Yes, there are agencies that are employers of caregivers, but these agencies are employing like very few numbers of caregivers, and the number that they need to employ is going to explode, right? And I think they're aware, but yeah, so online resources are just things that I have lists of all these. I've already prepared. I've given you a list of about 30 online resources. I wanted global, but we got mainly American resources. Caregiving agencies, again, mainly American, but Gulshanji knows of Indian resources. They do so much more than we can even expect, right? They do fantastic things. Then you have senior centers in the local neighborhoods and the local area agency on aging, right? They can provide resources. This is how caregivers are presently found. So how are caregivers hired? First, they're interviewed to make sure they're a good fit for the loved one and the family that is hiring. And they will be asked about experience, training, and availability, references, and they will be checked. References is people they've worked with before, and they will check, did they, take things from out, whatever, some small things, they will check those things. And then they discuss the employment, pay, hours, benefits, and typically they also sign a contract saying the job is for 12 months. These are things that you should do for my parent, and this is how you will be compensated. And this is your free time, off time, and so on and so forth, right? So, and then how much are they paid, right? So in general, caregivers are paid between $12 and $20 per hour, but this is the average, right? So how much more can caregivers be paid? And it is quite a bit more, depending on the resources and the wealth of the families that are hiring them, right? And more importantly, depending on the care that you are able to provide, right? If you are so highly ethical and so responsible, punctual, neat, present yourself in the most professional way, always put their loved ones' interests, and every time they come home from work, they see maybe their parent is bathed, showered, is looking happy, is holding a little thing of flowers, or has a card, or has some nice little things in the room and they're looking happy and smiling and they look loved and cared for. Yeah, it's not, I mean, the sky is the limit. When somebody is worried about their loved one and they want the best care for them so that they can continue to work and lead their lives without themselves becoming professional caregivers, they have a profession, right? Whatever profession they have, they would like to continue to do their profession, but still have their loved one taken care of and loved and cared for like they would if they were doing that at home. So the more we provide that, the more the compensation will be, right? And cost of living varies, experience varies, the level of care that's needed varies, and everything is negotiable, right? So caregivers are not just employees, right? They become a member of the family. So people will pay them more than a fair wage to show appreciation for hard work and dedication. So yes, immigrants are hired as caregivers in many, many countries. There is a special category of visas called H2C visa in United States for caregivers. And Gulshan ji and I were going over these visas in all these different countries, what visa category they're hired in, because we are looking for how to create these job opportunities for you if you have an interest in this as a profession. But also we want to see if the countries themselves have the ability to open that door and let people in this job description. And the United States has several thousand H2C visas. I can't remember exactly how many. I think it was more than 80,000, probably like 100,000 of these H2C visas were awarded last year. There's many reasons why immigrants are hired as caregivers. Okay, they say low paying and low status, but I don't think so. Somebody that's caring for your family member is a family member for you, right? Somebody who treats a caregiver as less than a family member is kind of not using their brain, because if you love your family member and you want them to be treated like you would treat them, or you want them to be treated like you yourself, you would treat your caregiver as a family member, right? So if a native born worker is not looking at the job, that's not because they're smarter or cleverer. It's just because they don't understand the importance of the role of this profession in the lives of families, right? So you have language skills, cultural knowledge that makes them well suited for caregiving jobs. So a lot of the Western cultures are, when somebody gets older or if they get sick or if they get disabled, they are set aside from the mainstream of society because they cannot keep up with the speed at which it is traveling, right? That's very much the case in the United States and most big cities. So what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything except that caregiving is needed, right? So, immigrant workers are willing to work longer hours, maybe live with their employers. So that makes immigrants a very ideal group of people to hire as caregivers. And the number of caregivers by 2030, it's 82 million full-time caregivers, right? The world will need an additional 82, or maybe these 30 countries that need. So 82 million caregivers, what does that mean? That's a lot of people. That is a lot of people. That means almost 5% of all people in India can have jobs, as caregivers all over the world. And those jobs are not going away. And they're actually going to keep increasing that need. So maybe 10% of everybody that is born in India can have a job as a caregiver all over the world, including in India, right? That's a lot of demand, right? It's not a small professional demand. It's a huge profession. It's a huge category. It covers all kinds of things. And I can talk about special case scenarios or special kind of caregiving jobs, special needs that we have not covered here that are unique and unusual. And, the pay is like somebody can make $500,000 doing that job. Why? Because not everybody can do it, right? And so there are many possibilities. So again, yes. What countries most need caregivers? Again, we talked about it. So Japan, by 2030, 1 in 4, 25% of Japanese will be over the age of 65. China also is experiencing a rapidly aging population. China, Korea, Japan, and all, the population is aging so much that China particularly, they have a fertility incentive. If somebody has more than one child, they get rewards from the government. They're encouraging, and they're also paying for fertility treatments. The government is paying for fertility treatments. By 2030, 1 in 5 Chinese people, that's 20%, will be over the age of 65. China will need a large number of caregivers to provide care for its elderly population, right? India is the world's second most populous country, also a country with a rapidly aging population. But by 2030, it is estimated that 1 in 6 Indians will be over the age of 65. India will also need a significant number of caregivers to provide for its elderly population. Germany, right? Italy, Spain. Spain is also facing a shortage of caregivers, right? Italy also has a shortage. Germany also has a shortage. All these countries have shortage of caregivers, right? So there are some perceived problems with immigrant caregivers. They say, okay, do they have the language? If they go to Germany, do you know German? Do you know the culture in Germany? And then immigrants may be exploited. That is certain other countries, you know, we don't want to name them. Not everywhere, and you know, most countries they're not, and if they are, then you just say no, I quit, and you'll get a job the next day. You don't have to worry about that. But immigrants provide a valuable service, and they can benefit from the opportunity to work and live in a new country, and it's a very positive thing both for the caregiver and for the person receiving the care. So there are some huge benefits for you as the caregiver as well. So again, we talked about these projected needs. 1.2 billion people will be 60 or older. I want to give you some American numbers just for context, right? So in America, there are about 53 million people who are over the age of 65. These are the Medicare population, 53 million people in America. So our population is about 350 million. And so about 53 million, that is 1/7 of the population, a little bit more than 1/7, so close to 1/6 of the population is above the age of 65, right? So out of the 53 million people, all of them have at least one chronic medical illness. All 53 million people have at least one chronic medical illness, right? So the government spends $1 trillion, that is 1 million, one followed by 6 + 6, 12 zeros. 1 followed by 12 zeros. That many dollars the government spends on the care of these 53 million older citizens above the age of 65, right? Of that, half, that is 500 billion, is actually spent on only 7 million people who have 6 or more chronic medical conditions. 7 million of these 53 million people have 6 or more chronic medical conditions. And half of that $1 trillion is spent on keeping them alive and taking care of them, these 7 million people, right? So that is a very important figure. Back in 2007, I had proposed that there is a final common pathway of human organism, disease, aging, and death. Final common pathway, okay? And I had said that aging and chronic medical illness are caused by the same thing, which is a shutting down of what the body's regenerative organ system is, which can revive and regenerate the body, right? I proposed that in 2007. In 2010, the National Institutes of Health in the United States created a new field of medicine called gerosciences, where they said aging and chronic medical illness are related. We don't know how, but we need to study a lot and try to figure out how they're connected, right? That was 3 years after I proposed, and they did not have a hypothetical solution that connects aging and chronic medical illness, which I had created 3 years before and said it was the regenerative organ system. The reason I'm telling you this is this. In less than 10 years, we are going to prove that we can reverse aging and reverse all chronic medical illnesses at the Immortality Institute in Houston, Texas. In less than 10 years, we're going to be able to do this, okay? In India, we have United Network for Organ Regeneration, in addition to the Immortality Institute branch, okay? It is in Mumbai. Now, what we're going to do is, I've already trained a few healthcare professionals in India with what I do. And what we're going to do is, and I've mentioned this to Gulshan Ji, when I came in 2015 to India, that's when I trained a few healthcare professionals, and I was going to train a lot more after doing the clinical trials in India for the reversing of aging and chronic medical illness. So in less than 10 years, we're going to have 10,000 doctors trained globally on how to reverse aging and chronic medical illness. Guess who they're going to be working with in order to give this to their people? They're going to be working with you. You are their professional wellness caregivers. And their patients are the people you take care of, right? So they will come to you and they will say, listen, let's make an aging reversal and disease reversal plan for the person you are serving. This is what it involves. Can you administer this? That is how it's going to be. That's how your job is going to become a career path, right? So this is why, from what I understand, Gulshanji is asking me to deliver this seminar, because we have made a breakthrough in reversing aging and chronic medical illness, right? And in order to bring it to the people, we need the people who are actually on the ground taking care of them to turn and work with us, right? So us meaning the 10,000 doctors and myself who will be trained to deliver this type of care. So that's just a little incentive to get into this profession if you require an additional one. Yeah, so we talked about how the growth of elderly population will put a strain on social services, but we are addressing that medically, right? The number of challenges that we need to address is growing. The huge challenge is a shortage of qualified caregivers, not enough people with the skills and training to provide care for the elderly. Another challenge is the cost of care. Providing care for the elderly is expensive. Most countries do not have the resources to meet the growing demand. And we need to invest in training more people to provide care for the elderly. We need to develop new technologies that can help support caregivers, and we need to find ways to make care more affordable. Aging population is not only a challenge, but is also an opportunity. We've discussed this opportunity now briefly, and we can improve the quality of life for millions of people and build a more sustainable future, right? So again, these are those numbers. Any questions?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Priya, ma'am. It was wonderful. Thanks a lot. And
sure, my pleasure. So thank you so much for the honor and the opportunity.
First of all, you know, the topic which we have taken, that we have taken on a spiritual path, and we have taken with a very positive, you know, nodes, because children need jobs, young generation need jobs. At the same time, helping our elders, helping our aging population world over, what could be a better noble cause than to take up this particular as a profession? Now, there's a huge demand, there's a huge requirement, but what we need is professional approach while preparing these youngsters. And at the same time, you touched very important points. They got to understand the cultural diversity, cultural amalgamation, and working environment, working conditions, working places, and you know, mingling with the families overseas, world over, and picking up language skills also, the country where they go and they work in. So it's a huge demand, and at the same time, this profession needs more empathy than sympathy, because it is something where you really care for someone in different ways. Now, one question which I'll just take from Julie Subba ma'am, and she has asked, suggest a pathway for rewiring the global approaches to healthy and graceful aging.
Oh, what a beautiful question. Julie Subba ma'am, salute you. Sir, I salute you. Chitra ma'am, I salute you. Mother India, I salute you. The Indian genius is just being unleashed. That's all I can say. I mean, I can tell you the Indian genius, nobody knows on this planet how much it can do and what are all the ills it can cure, right? So all of you are the Indian genius. Like, you are bringing the Indian genius onto the stage, and you're proving beyond a shadow of a doubt what depth and, you know, grace and dignity the culture has, and genius for solving complex problems. So Julie Subba ma'am, how do we rewire people? So the first thing you said, and it's a beautiful thing you said, which is rewire, which means we need to rewire the circuitry in the brain. How to age in a healthy way and in a graceful way. We need to have widespread adult education not classrooms. Because guess what? If I told you, and let us say you're a 65-year-old person or a 70-year-old person, you've seen all kinds of things in your life, your corporate life, your career, whatever. If I told you, get on to Zoom and I'm going to teach you how bad you've been all your life and how you need to be a better person for the rest of your life, do you think anybody is going to sign up for that class? Probably not, right? So it has got to be something that is attractive, very, very sweet, like honey, like nectar for people. And those classes have to start at a very young age. And right now in the West, they're being done in religious organizations like Catholic Charities, Methodist, whatever they call these people. They give them premarital counseling, they give them pre-child counseling, what to do before you get married, like, how do you treat the person well, and how do you respect each other so that you can lead a full, you don't get divorced, you can stay married for the whole life. And when you have a child, how you should raise a child. These are the only organizations teaching parenting and teaching how to be a good, faithful partner to your spouse. This should be it should be religious, and it should also be a non-religious, non-denominational training where we capture people at a and capture is the wrong word. What I mean is we captivate people. We captivate them, we hold them captive emotionally, because we are giving them some essential life skills that they will never learn in school. And we have to do it as an adult learning project, because in childhood, they are in school mode, and in Singapore and all, they start in 6th grade for preparing to get into engineering or medical. In India, we're starting in 6th, 7th, 8th grade for IIT and medical, whatever that people are doing. These children are not available to us at an impressionable age to train them. So we have to have a whole core of coaches, core like CORPS, a whole core of coaches who will teach adults in an engaging, enthusiastic, curiosity stimulating, awareness raising, uplifting, positivity infused, encouragement filled way, who are trained in adult learning techniques, who can teach people how it is, what changes you need to do to age healthfully and gracefully. And it has got to start not when they're 70, it has got to start early, and it has got to be like honey, like nectar, okay? So I have attended several classes like that. One of them is a cellular health coaching, where we train people how to learn how to use their body. It's a manual for the human body. Isn't that something every school should teach? Every human being should learn? Yes, it is. It is an important and a very, very interesting, fascinating academic course. But is it honey? I don't know. It requires a little bit different element for the honey part of it, right? So if we have to make it extremely sweet, irresistibly attractive, it's got to give all of the goodness and the essence of healthy, graceful aging. And it has got to be done with using all the principles of adult learning. And this was actually something I discussed with Gulshanji. I had prepared a talk on how to deliver 30 hours of professional teacher education to make them eligible to be hired as teachers everywhere. But we realized that there's not a financial demand for this. There's nobody that's going to pay to hire these teachers, but we can repurpose that for teaching adult learning to teachers and to everybody. So that even if you're a child, you're 18 years old and you want to teach your parents, because you are actually going to be at the forefront of this technology and, cutting edge. So you will end up teaching your own parents. And how will you as their child teach them how to age healthfully and gracefully? We will teach you that. And you can do it in a beautiful, respectful, just a beautiful way. And with using the principles of adult learning and using that honey principle and really communicating the core thing. And if you say it a few times, 5, 6, it requires somebody hearing something 7 times to 10 times before it actually gets in to the brain and it starts making those rewiring circuitry changes.
Sure.
So,
thank you.
Yeah, and we have other technology too.
It's
but the key to all of this is finding the right way, which we can create that path for you. Or we can give the technological solution for you, but the key is repetition. Okay. In order to do it gracefully and healthfully, repetition is the key.
So thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for wonderful. In order for the rewiring to take place, not the healthful, graceful part is the content. But the rewiring, that has to be done repeatedly every day for life.
Thank
And
you.
that is actually something my mentor, Mr. John Asraf, has created. It's called inner sizing. We will
Thank you.
create an inner size for you for how healthy and graceful aging, and we will give it to you.
Wonderful.
You can use
Wonderful.
it as a gift.
So, ladies and
Yes.
gentlemen, today's topic, particularly Dr. Priya ma'am has taken so much into depth, how the wellness caregivers, you can become as a profession. At the same time, how there's a great requirement world over. And as we are aging, as the world is aging, and particularly she listed out a lot of European countries. Besides that, she talked about Canada, USA, and she had also gone to Japan, Singapore, South Korea, and a couple of other places. At the same time, now how to prepare this particular force, how the children should be made to realize that this is a noble profession. This is something which they got to take with so much of, the passion and so much of, once again, empathy. That is something very important. You got to have not only the physical care, but the emotional care, social care, spiritual care, all that we will talk about. Now, before we close today's session, we wish to share with all of you that soon we would be bringing a combination of a physical event as well as we will be having hybrid event where people joining us from the world over and caregivers journey we will take on further. And I still recall when you go
we have
to
2 more sessions at least, sir, on caregivers.
We will, ma'am.
Yeah.
We will take on. We will take on, ma'am. And people should be prepared. We may take during the weekdays also. I'll discuss with Dr. Ma'am, and we can plan the things accordingly. Now, when you go to certain hospitals, because nowadays I consider there is no difference between hospital and a hotel, because there are 5-star facilities which are being given to you. In the hospital also, your every care is being taken. And I still recall when sometime I was not well, the gentleman used to come in the evening. He used to come with a guitar, depending on, and giving us musical notes and music therapy. And music plays very important role with your emotions and with your health and with your all kind of wellness when we talk about. So before we close today's session, because legally on the YouTube, you are permitted for 1 minute only. So we will play the karaoke and we'll close the session with that. I'll just try and see if that is possible. I'll just try. And if that comes, it should be here.
Sensitive teeth.
Yeah, we can hear it, sir.
New Sensodyne Complete Protection Plus. Now get sensitivity protection plus multiple oral care benefits.
This is when you go on the YouTube live.
Complete Protection Plus.
I have to run because they have paid for it. So I'm going to play the song for you now. We'll just run the karaoke. It'll be for 1 minute. Only 1 minute. That is permissible.
Yes, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
किसी की मुस्कुराहटों पे हो निसार, किसी के दर्द मिल सके तो ले उधार, किसी के वास्ते हो तेरे दिल में प्यार, जीना इसी का नाम है, किसी की मुस्कुराहटों पे हो निसार, किसी के दर्द मिल सके तो ले उधार, किसी के वास्ते हो तेरे दिल में प्यार, जीना इसी का नाम है. I can't play more than this. You all should enjoy in your own time on the YouTube channel. This was a
lovely voice, sir. Thank you.
Because let's think good for others. Let's give happiness to others. And even if they have difficulties, let's take them. Let's share with them. Let's see how the collaboration can be there so that the whole world is happy. That's the way we go into. So my deep gratitude and thanks to Dr. Priya Visweshwarn ma'am today. to come as a
Thank you,
resource
sir.
person, to
The
come as
opportunity and the honor.
and all the
Appreciate you.
people who joined us on the YouTube channel.
Thank
We
you
are
so
very
much, everyone.
proud of you.
Julie, Subha, ma'am, everybody.
We assure all of you that
Pleasure.
we're
Thank you.
taking this journey forward. Is just the beginning. Today we have given the teaser and we're going to move ahead with this particular program further. Thank you, ma'am.